Ivan, congratulations. Very nice win
Thank you very much.
against Maxime. Before we look at the game, just tell us a little bit about how you're feeling after that.
Great. I won a game against 27th player after a very long time. Yesterday, actually, I was quite close against Gukesh, but I missed a crucial move after the time control. So, yeah, today game seemed like I was always slightly better, and then at some moment it looked like it petered out to a draw. And then I managed to find some idea, and the ninth endgame was quite unpleasant for him.
Show us maybe those critical moments.
This is the first moment after Queen F3 line of neither, which both of us are playing with white and black. So the most critical line here is castles for black, and after it stopped G4 because then D5, and after castles B5, G4 before there is a line. But instead he went knight D7, which should be slightly better for white as far as I concluded when I was preparing. So
did you feel that today between the two of you, as you said, you both played with both colors, that it was going to be a big theoretical discussion?
Oh, we already played so many games, usually neithers, and I rarely managed to achieve anything. So I wasn't really hoping for much. But after this knight D7, and he was already starting to think, so I was a bit, mildly
relieved, optimistic,
yeah.
both.
After castles rook c8, white has to go knight d5 because of rook c3 exchange sec. And actually, this position, I knew it was some, let's say, I knew there were a couple of games in this line, and I think white mostly won maybe 3-4 games. White is pawn down, but he's threatening g5 very strong, and h6 does not stop it because of h4, g5 is even stronger. So he has to give up the pawn.
Actually, how far did your preparation go, if you can reveal?
No, it wasn't for this game. This I had known for a long time, but actually I was quite surprised that it appeared on the board. So after, let's say, e3, fe3, I was on my own. I think e3 is the best move, and now white has a bishop pair, but black has some squares. This pawn on e3 is very, very bad pawn, the bishop on d2 also. So I went bishop d3 and was expecting some ideas with knight fd7, knight e5, trying to improve the knight, but instead he went to d5.
Did that surprise you?
Maybe a little bit. It has an idea that after g5 he will just go knight e4, and when I take the pawn, black will have great compensation after it takes castles, knight coming to c4, let's say.
Castles.
Yeah, I think black is at least fine here. But with bishop pair after d5, I should open up the position and also open up my dark square bishop. So now it's kind of forced after e4, takes queen e4. Castles actually very forcing. If I want to do something, bishop f4, the queen is hanging, and the only move is queen c4 because the bishop has to. I mean, black cannot protect the bishop, so now if I take on e7, he takes on f4, and now I have a rook d4 tempo, and he can go queen e6, but after rook e1, I have a slightly better endgame. Maybe maybe even queen. I didn't like so much queen e6, fe6, because then he already has some rook f4, bishop g5 ideas, although I was considering both options. But after rook d4, now he can go queen c6 because my rook on h1 is hanging. Knight a5 does not give me much because of queen b5, and then he takes on a5, and a2 is hanging, so black is already at least fine here. So I went for the endgame because he has to take with the pawn. Since rook c6 is bad after knight a5, I just take on b7.
So you're saying if rook takes?
Yeah, knight a5. And I think I'm winning the pawn. So bc6, this usually is not a great structure in Sicilians and in general, and actually I was hoping here that I have an even bigger advantage, but maybe his position is not that bad. After all, he will play f5, and I have some issues. For example, if I start, let's say, with rook e4, knight b5, bishop d2, I'm not even, after c4, I'm not threatening cd5 because after cd5, my rook is hanging. So So that's why I choose to play rook e1, and after bishop f4, rook e4. But now he found this idea of pushing f5, and more or less this was the critical moment.
You talked earlier about at some point you thought it was going to peter out.
Yeah, this is exactly the moment where I thought that already trend was on his side, because I thought he's equalizing, because rook e2 he can take a knight a4, and let's say if I go rook e6, he can go knight d7, and I cannot even take on c6. Also knight e5 is coming, so so I should be careful not to do worse here.
That would be pretty bad news.
But I found this idea of knight c5, which attacks pawn on a6 and leaves b2 hanging. And the most important thing is that after rook b2, I have rook b4, which is a double attack. And now he has to go for the knight endgame, which is quite unpleasant. Although at the moment I'm pawn down, but I will have the passed a pawn, and in knight endgames, the a and the h pawns are the strongest ones. So
you were optimistic about the endgame?
I didn't know. I knew I was better, but then I was thinking, why would he enter into this position if he doesn't think it's a draw? So I thought that I have some chances. I didn't see a 4 draw for him, so that's all.
And where do you think things started to take a turn?
It's unclear for me as the stronger side, but he said that he didn't like the move f5 after the game. He thinks that could be.
Can we go to that
mistake? So knight c5, he played f5, which is understandable since he wants to create some counterplay with the f pawn. But on the other hand, he weakens the e5 square, and eventually that's where my king landed.
So let's see that actually.
So this is move 40. I played h4, which in hindsight I think maybe a3 was a bit more precise, because after h4 knight d5. Now after knight d3, he can actually take this.
Oh,
okay, here.
Yeah.
Knight before.
That's fascinating.
c5, king c4, cb, king b4, and now king e5. If a4, f4, and
I should see if I can fix.
And if king c3, okay.
Sorry.
I will go king f4, and then king g3 and f4, and he's just in time to promote. So instead of knight d3, I have to go a3, and I was here expecting some knight f4 move, but again after knight f4 I have a4 here is possible. Also I have knight d3, so
a lot of time.
Yeah, like pawn endgames are usually always lost for him. He went king c7, which for me was shocking, but then then he showed his idea after king e5, f4. Suddenly there is one pawn endgame which is draw, so king e6, knight e6, king b6, and now if I take on f4, sorry, he takes, and he's just in time to go king b5, king a4, and let's say king g5.
Okay, we can show the race, maybe.
Yes. And he's just in time to. There is no pre-move yet. So it's a draw.
You got there.
And when I gave check on e6, I saw this knight d4 idea, stopping king b5 and also f3, and it's kind of zugzwang for both sides. I mean, I can still improve my pawn, and he cannot move the knight because he loses the f4 pawn. And in any lines, if he wants to, let's say, go knight e3 and take on a3, I will always just take on f4 and collect h7 pawn, so he doesn't have time to go with knight on.
So here, did you feel it was?
Yeah, I thought I'm very close.